Hi everyone, we're back online again for the podcast today with a dinosaur of the soccer world, Ambry Moss. What age
How
are you
you
now
doing?
approaching? 40?
Nah, not 40, maybe 30, approaching 30.
It's great seeing you
I'm
again.
getting
How,
there
how
though.
are you?
I'm good, man. I think we're all adjusting to what's going on right now with the current environment, right? So now it's just trying to stay healthy and positive and just trying to get through this like sort of era that we're in right now.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of people won't know this, but we actually played together at Northeastern for a couple of years. I don't think Ambry understood a word I said during the 2 years,
Still
but
don't. It
so hopefully things go a bit better today.
will. I'm ready for it.
So, Bahama Mama, you were born in the Bahamas. How was life growing up there? That must have been like paradise.
Yeah, I mean, life is sweet growing up in the Bahamas, right? You have good weather, you have the beaches. I mean, life is good. It I left pretty early, right? I left in grade 9, but just during that time, being around my family, just being around friends, like local friends, it was great growing up in the Bahamas, and it's definitely something that I kind of keep with me wherever I go, right? So yeah, it was great.
So, when did you start playing soccer then?
Ooh, I started pretty early. I was about 7 years old. I mean, my dad was big in track and field, but the high school that I was going to, they were promoting like, hey, let's like get kids onto a soccer team. And from there, it was one of the coaches came up to me. He was like, hey, you should really look into this, right? And it was from there where you're playing little leagues to trying to get more experience with like the older people, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. Just in terms of like being competitive and just trying to beat the next person. So from there, I really try. I was focusing more so on the soccer side of things.
Yeah, so who would you say would have been your idols then, growing up, that made you fall in love with the game?
Yeah, my idol was definitely Vincent Company. I mean, the guy is just technically sound. He's an animal on the field, right?
Yeah,
Just the way he communicates. Those traits are what I try to implement within when I'm playing soccer. So he was someone that I looked up to. He was someone that I actually studied while I was, growing up and then playing the game.
yeah, eating up the turf like you.
Exactly. Eating up the turf and try to eat up some people at the same time.
So that happened a good few times.
Oh, yeah.
So you spent 3 years at IMG Academy down in Florida,
Mhm.
where you won the Defensive Player of the Year award twice. So tell us about your time there and how that affected your development as a soccer player.
Yeah, of course. I mean, IMG is definitely like the centralized place of who I am today as a player and even as a person, right? Um, it was tough from the beginning. I was by myself at that point, right? Living on my own. I had a coach who was very like determined, and I mean, Tom, right? He's very tough on us, which was great. So playing soccer every day was phenomenal. You're at this age where you really don't have any responsibilities. You just get to do what you're passionate about, right? So it was trainings in the mornings, lifting in the morning, and then it was school throughout the day, and then we would go back to like actual like play soccer uh, at around 5, right? So you're kind of doing 2 a days and traveling, meeting new people, and then just perfecting your skills to be a professional and even be a better person, like be a better soccer player that you can be, right?
Yeah, like
So
having
that
that
was great.
yeah, having that full contact every day, it must have helped like push you on and give you that kind of extra competitive edge at the same time.
Exactly. I mean, and it was tough. Don't get me wrong. But if you love the sport, right? So you want to stay within it and you want to grow as well. So that was really a great place for me to start my. I think that was the place that truly helped me start my soccer career.
Yeah. Was there any guys down there who you played with that have went on like to play like at a big time level?
So there were a few guys. So like Blair Gavin, who he ended up going to the where did he go? To the MLS. I can't really remember the team. And Ampai. Ampai was a big person that came throughout the IMG system. So he was someone who was playing for the Earthquakes, and then he ended up going to Thailand, where he's just a superstar now, right? And then I'm sure that there are others that I play with. Even so, we would always play against like the U.S. residency kids, right? So it was, you had some quality people like coming in and out of that program. So those are, I mean, just to name a few.
Yeah, being able to like work with the guys every day and push yourself against them, and also given the chance to play against the US residency kids, like that
Mm.
must have been something that like you could see yourself pushing yourself on and getting better each day, but also wanting to be better than them.
Exactly. I mean, you get this little like island kid who's trying to, obviously competition was high with the Americans, right? So it was great. I mean, there's some quality guys, and I mean, you just tried to beat them, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of competition, definitely.
So then you ended up going to college, ended up at Indiana University to start with. What other schools were you looking at during that time?
Yeah, I definitely. So I had a full roster, right? I think I had about my top 10 schools that I wanted to go to, but off the top of my head, I was definitely trying to go to, University of Kentucky, FIU, USF. I even tried to like look into Akron. Indiana was definitely one of them. So those are just to name a few that I was trying to, those were my schools that I was like, all right, I need to get into these colleges.
Yeah. How did you end up deciding on Indiana then?
It was so my coach, Coach Marcel, he was just like, "Hey, Indiana is this team. They're a great program." He was the one that kind of convinced me and guided me to, with my playing style and just the type of environment that they kind of foster would be a good fit for me. So I ended up going to, the college campus just to do like a tour, and it was great. So that's what helped me decide like, hey, this is the place I want to, the college that I want to attend.
Yeah, so obviously you didn't play much your freshman year there. How did that feel like coming from IMG where you'd been the defensive player of the year and you'd made such a big impact there?
I mean, it was tough, right? It was really, really tough. My goal at that time was to be a professional soccer player, right? And going to a school where it's the, the the amount of potential that's there, it's high. So if you mess up once, someone's after your spot, right? And that's what kind of happened with me. And it was just more so like trying to be mentally like strong, and just trying to like get through it as best as I can, right? But to this day, it always like it hurts me, right? Because I wanted to play soccer there,
Yeah.
but things don't really work out the way you want them to. I mean, everything happens for a reason, right? So it was definitely tough. It was an adjustment I had to get used to.
Yeah, so then after that you made the decision to transfer to Northeastern. How did you
Hmm.
end up deciding on Northeastern and what was the reasons that convinced you to go there?
Yeah, the biggest reason was so my high school coach when I was at IMG, Tom Durkin, was going into Northeastern as the assistant coach, and he kind of called me up. He knew that I was at the time looking to transfer, and he was definitely the big reason why I wanted to go into Northeastern, just because he knows the type of player that I am, and I know the type of coach that he is. So it was great to. It was just an easy switch for me, right? I'll follow that guy anywhere I like he goes.
Yeah. So would you say like he was the main reason who was just like, all right, there's a bunch of skills here that I could transfer to and try my luck at, but I've got something tried and tested with like my
Mm-hmm.
former coach here, so like things will work out.
For the exactly. So I mean, he was the main factor. And no offense to Ian Scarf or Fife, but he was definitely the main reason why I ended up transferring to Northeastern.
Yeah, so Coach Ainscough was the head coach during your time there. You went on to win the CA championships in 2012. That must have been a great experience. How did he help you develop your game?
Yeah. It's funny. So I think we all know Inscott very well, right? He is someone that is truly going to push your buttons and test you. It's great that I had Tom Durkin, who was kind of that same like caliber. So it was just more so like, he's coming from a good place. He's a very strong person. And it was like, that helped me to be mentally strong whenever I'm going into games, because like it gets heated, right?
Yeah.
So Ainscough helped me in terms of a mental standpoint, but I think like even college football, it isn't more so about the development side of things. It's more so, I mean, it's a short season, and you just, you need to win games. So he was like always pressuring us to perform our best, and trying to, have like a winning record. So I would say, like in terms of those aspects, is how Ainscough really helped push my professional career and even my skills to another level.
Yeah. So winning that CAA championships, like how did that make you feel?
Oh man, I mean, what a time! It was smiles everywhere. It's great to be in Northeastern books. Like, hey, this year we won the CAA, and it was making history. The team was everything was going right that year, and that's how soccer is, right? Usually, when things are going right, you tend to do good things. So it was a phenomenal year, definitely.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like people don't realize how much luck is involved in the game of soccer. Like depending on who you know,
Hmm.
like one bounce can kill you as well.
Exactly. I mean, the amount of times Don was just in front of the goal where people were like, "How did you get there?" And
Yeah.
it was him hitting the ball and he would get it into the goal. So soccer does. There's a good amount of luck involved, which people don't really say. Like, I mean, think like you just said.
Yeah, like people think we're just running about like headless chickens the full time, but there's much more
That's
to
not the case.
it. So, for a guy that has the highest vertical jump, eats up the ground when he runs, and is a nightmare to try and get past, how did you manage all of that when you'd never been in a gym your whole life?
I mean, my my dad is very athletic, right? So I get a lot of his traits, which is great. But you still have to. I still try to go out and train myself, whether it's like doing more sprints, trying to run long distance. So it's like I was never like the best person in the gym, but I would always try to like figure out a way to make. I know my strengths, and speed was definitely one of them. So whether it's like going outside, running sprints, trying to get faster and like perfect my like running technique. Those are like little things that I try to do to help strengthen my strength, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, like people don't realize as well, like you've got an individual like plan, like you
Mm-hmm.
know what works for yourself and like what doesn't work for you. Like, what were kind of some of the things that you would do to make yourself better during the off season?
Yeah, the off season. I mean, I was never the best person when it came to the off season, right? I was always injured for some reason. I don't know. That was just my luck. But to be honest with you, like I think during the off season was probably one of the best times for me, just because you were playing. I was playing PDL. I was staying in Boston. I was going into Northeastern for the gym and everything. So it helped keep me like honest and push me, right. So I had like Jacob and Aldi, who are. I mean, you see those guys in the gym, and even if when you see them on the field, you're just like, I need to keep up with these guys, right?
Yeah,
It was great being around them and feeding off of their like positive attitude and just always wanted to get better. So I use my summers to focus on strengthening myself and following those guys to help me push myself.
yeah. So you mentioned as well about playing in the PDL. Like, how was that experience?
PDL is great. You don't have as much stress as when you're in college, but PDL is definitely a time where you can strengthen your, whether it's like getting repetitions in games, whether it's you're playing with quality players, right, feeding off of their, or like just like studying how they're playing and then kind of applying it to how you play, right. So it was definitely a positive experience, and it was something that I tried to do. Well, I did do every off season, just because it helps, right?
Yeah, it keeps you ticking over as well for when the short college season comes back around.
And Ainscough asks you to run, and you can't really do
I know that feeling.
it.
So you mentioned the quality players there, like across the PDL. Like a lot of people don't know that that's like one of the stepping stones to get towards the MLS. And the teams there, like who was the players that impressed you the most during your summers you spent there?
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Rugg was definitely a big player. He's like a quality player, so it was good like watching the way he plays, and even Michael Busamonte. Like those guys are, technically sound, and it was great being around them, watching the way they play.
Yeah, what kind of things stood out to you for them that set them aside from everyone else?
They stayed within their abilities, right? So Charlie Rugg was a big person. Like, he knew that, all right, I'm a target forward, and I'm not gonna, like, he doesn't try to do all of these fancy stuff. He stays within his limits. And Michael Bustamante, and I hope I'm saying his last name right, but he's so technically sound that he's not a type of player to push and run, right? To push the ball and run. He was more so like, all right, I'm gonna keep the ball close to me and help distribute. So it was like they really leverage their strengths so to hide their weaknesses, and that, I think those guys did that really, really well.
Yeah. So obviously across your time in college, you played with some characters from Indiana to Northeastern, guys from all over the world. Who were the guys that impressed you the most during that time?
At Indiana,
Northeastern, like.
I mean, so when I was at Indiana, Carell Bradford was someone that always impressed me, right? He was kind of in the same boat as me, but his overall attitude to push through it and even stay there, like that kid, the next year ended up like getting onto the starting team and winning a national championship. So he was someone that I was like, okay, like this guy is, he was ready for anything. Like, he was fighting through everything, right? And then when I got to Northeastern, I have to say, like, each year and each team that I was on, like, just being around those, like, that whole community of kids, I can't really say like there's one person. It was like just being around that, group of people who were wanting to, win titles, like make history, right? So, like, to name a few, like yourself, Hamadi, Nico, Dante Marini, Jacob, Ollie, those guys they really helped push the team, and it was great, being around them, and creating a brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
So those are things that, that takes you from past, like after college to even during that time, you build these, great friendships.
Yeah, I'll Venmo you that $50 later for sliding my name in.
I got you. I'll put some credit. I put a little, credit in there.
No, guys like Dante and even Hamadi as well, like on the ball, like it was just a different type of brain. Like that's
Right.
like that's one of the things I noticed. There was only when I first came over, there was only a few players who could play at the kind of mentality level that I was at, like, and that I'd been used to, like the new things that were happening before they even happened.
Exactly.
And like that's a big part of soccer. Like you have to be aware. You have to be 5 steps ahead of your next person and know where it's going. So obviously across that team, there was a lot of hard work and stuff that went on, but there was also a lot of fun and games.
Yeah.
Was there a joker in the teams, and what kind of things did they get up to?
Jokers?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, this is the whole team. I mean, you're in college, you're young, you're having fun. Those are really the good old days, right? You had a lot of funny characters on there, and I mean, obviously he's my roommate, and I keep talking about him, but Amadi was definitely one of them. Like, if you guys like really sit with this guy, like, he will keep you laughing consistently. So yeah, I mean, it's college, right? You're having fun, going to parties, going to bars, just creating more of that brotherhood, right?
Yeah. So obviously you mentioned the parties and the bars there. There were a few memorable nights out, from the nights at Punters to the parties on the hill. Like, what was your favorite memories from that time?
Ooh, what's the rating of this podcast?
Tell your story.
I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think on this one. So we lived in 274 Parker Hill, right? And we always used to throw a good amount of parties, and that was the place. We did a lot there in terms of partying. So I'm gonna just keep it in terms of like that, and not get really. But that was a good place and a good year.
Yeah, I remember walking into that place and like.
Don't come in on a Saturday. You don't want to party.
Seeing Josh like standing there and they're breaking like a bat across his chest. I was like, all right, this is gonna be fun.
What are we doing? Like we used to, like, I mean, breaking guitars, throwing furniture out of the window. It's mind blowing what we were doing, you know?
So, like, obviously, Northeastern, like, great time, great memories. What would you say your honest experience was there? Like, things that could have been improved, or
Yeah. Um, you know, it's funny. The first year I transferred there, I was nervous, right? I didn't visit the school. I didn't speak with Ainscough. I didn't speak with Fife. So I was nervous in terms of how's this going to play out, right? I wanted to play. That's why I transferred. Like I wanted to make sure I'm getting minutes, and I wanted to make sure that I'm helping drive to get my goal, right? Um, but my overall experience at Northeastern was definitely the best decision that I think that I've made from in my entire life. It's a great school. The soccer was great. We were growing. Um, it was just a phenomenal experience, you know. And the one thing that, at least that I've noticed with myself, so when I was obtaining my master's, I was a lot more focused than I was then. And while I was at Northeastern, uh, you know, being an undergrad, sorry, I really didn't put as much time into my school as I should have. You know, I was a passionate kid that wanted to play soccer. And obviously the way it worked out, I needed a plan B. And I should have focused more on school. Not to say I did bad in school, not to say that, you know, I was failing, but I definitely, you know, found myself in areas where I could have pushed in terms of schooling, definitely.
yeah, that's one of the toughest parts as well, even for me, like adjusting to
Mm-hmm.
like having soccer every day. Like you're up at for class 8 in the morning,
Exactly.
you're right through until 12, then practice, then back
Yeah.
to class, then
It's,
trying to
it's a
do
lot.
recovery, eat, and then trying to study and do your homework. It takes it out of you.
I mean, it really does. But I will say that that struggle has definitely helped me in just being in the workforce,
Yeah,
just being driven, you know, just student athletes can take a lot. At the end of the day, we do a lot. We do school, we do soccer, you know, we're trying to live our personal lives as well. So it's how do you balance those things? And a lot of people trouble with like time management, with even balancing their work-life balance, right? So I would say that it was definitely a huge like stepping stone into helping me be driven at the workforce in the workforce.
yeah, it does give you that level of preparedness that like not a lot of people have, and sets you apart from others.
Absolutely.
So obviously, you played for your national team.
Hmm.
That must have been a proud time for you as well. You played at under 17 level, under 20
Hmm.
level, and then you were called up to the full national team to play in World Cup qualifying. That's not something a lot of people can say.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Bahamas is definitely a small place, but it's just that feeling of, you know, representing where you're from, right? Representing your country, and you know, these call ups that I love doing it. I love representing my country, you know. And it was, you know, during that time of hurricane. A perfect example is Hurricane Dorian, right? That place really did a number, like on the Bahamas and even other areas, right? But it was, you know, we're playing for something. We're playing for the people. We're playing for our country. So it was great to, you know, be a part of that. It was a blessing to see like smiles on people's faces after we won those games, right? So it was during that time people needed some sort of like not distraction, but some sort of like uplift, and that played a part into that, you know, uplift, right?
Yeah, like sports gives people that kind of happiness when there's not a lot going on the outside. So that must have been like extremely proud moment for your family as well. Like, what were their reactions when you first heard?
Yeah, I mean, my parents are very supportive, proud people, right? And my mom loves it because I get to come back home. So you know, I mean, growing up to even like where I am now, you know, they always enjoy watching me play soccer. They would never really miss the beat when I was in the Bahamas, right? And even when I was at IMG, they were flying to to watch a few of my games, right? So you know, just being there and playing, you know, you're in such like playing soccer is like a safe space for me, right? And they kind of felt that, so they, you know, supported and watched me as much as they can.
Yeah, that's good. Like having that family support behind you, like it does push you on, and like being able to make them proud, but also make your country proud at the same time. That's a feeling you can't like ever compare to.
Absolutely.
So now you're working as global branded advertising coordinator at Reebok. How did that role end up coming around for you?
Yeah, it was. So I was finishing off my master's at Northeastern, and one of the requirements is doing an internship or a co-op. And I ended up doing a co-op where I went to Reebok, and it was just, I love the company. It's definitely a company that has its struggles and its challenges, but I mean that's where, I mean, anywhere you go, it'll have that, right? But it was just being around sports from a different angle that I truly enjoyed. The atmosphere, just like it's like being on a team again. So, you know, that whole experience and how you need to think from a different like perspective, right? From a marketing perspective. Now I'm not the one wearing the boots. I'm the one trying to persuade or encourage someone to buy the boots, right? So,
Yeah.
you're getting different perspective of this whole spectrum.
Yeah, like obviously you've known the industry as well, so it helps with that. Like what kind of things do you take from your playing experience that you use in the day-to-day life now?
Yeah, I mean, I think every athlete would say this, at least the ones that are, who are on big teams. It's being like you want to make sure that you're one team, right? Each person plays a pivotal role in the success, right? So that's one of my big learnings, and that's something that I try to encourage. Just like pushing the team and coming in with a positive attitude, right? Days are going to be gloomy, days are going to be tough, but if you're able to push through it as a team, it's really going to help achieve and accomplish some great things.
Yeah, that's an important thing. And obviously you're still playing soccer, most recently in the PDL for the Bolts,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously still with the national team. How
Yep.
are they going for you?
Well, they're on pause right now. um, but so last year, yeah, I played PDL with Bolts, and it was to help me. Um, you know, I'm not playing soccer every day, but it helped me to get my fitness level, the touches on the ball, in preparation for those games. So it was great. The I was the oldest person on it, so I know that I probably need to stop at some point. Um, but it was great. I mean, for all soccer players and even athletes, just being in that environment that you were in is a phenomenal time. You're just happy. So though being playing on PDL and playing for the Bahamas National Team, it really is a blessing, and I'm learning a lot still.
Yeah, especially like during this time, you appreciate it more.
Hmm.
Like all the
And
times you
it's
spent,
taken away.
yeah, all the time you spent outside and running around, like your mind just is taken away as soon as that ball comes out.
Exactly.
So thanks for taking the time today, mate. It's been great hearing your journey so far and the exciting things you're up to now. But before we go, what's some advice you could offer to future and current student athletes that are either still competing or that they're thinking about committing to a college to play sports?
Yeah, good question. And thank you for having me. It really is great to see where you are and how you're growing, So I'm really, really, I enjoy this, right? The advice that I would give for students or kids that are looking to, get into college, it's definitely a scary time, right? But you want to make sure that like when you're going on these college campus that is the right place for you to be, right? I think that my mistake was I ended up committing to Indiana way too quick. I didn't see all of my options through. So when I went there, I was like, okay, cool. I love it, committed, right? So that's one thing that I would say. Don't rush into your decision. And just in terms of people that are in college now and the ones that are finishing college, it's you want to set your goal high. Don't let anybody like tell you, oh, this is a stupid goal or it's too high for you to achieve. Go out and get it. Like the one thing that I noticed that I had a lot of people who said that, oh, I would never play in college, you know, and it was like, all right, like that's where I want to be, so I'm going to go after it.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to take more work than the person to the right of you, right? So you want to make sure that you put that time in, whether that's in sports or whether that's in work, whether that's in, you know, your books, your schooling. Put the time in. Try to go above and beyond.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's great. That's great advice for them as well. Like people don't realize how much effort's involved in it, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't want any regrets at the end.
Exactly. I think you summed that up really. That was perfect.
Perfect. All right. Thanks very much, mate.
Appreciate
Pleasure.
it, brother.